The moment Jimmy Fallon walked onto the Voice stage with his signature grin, everyone expected comedy gold. But what nobody in that studio was prepared for was witnessing one of America's most beloved comedians completely shatter on live television, proving that sometimes the people who make us laugh the hardest are the ones carrying the deepest pain. Subscribe now, because what you're about to witness will change everything you think you know about the man behind the laughter. Jimmy had come to The Voice that Tuesday afternoon for what was supposed to be a lighthearted celebrity guest segment. The producers had invited him to participate in a fun sketch where he would coach a young contestant through a performance, bringing his trademark humor and energy to the show that had become America's favorite singing competition. The plan was simple. Jimmy would work with 17-year-old Marcus Chen, a talented young singer from San Francisco who had been struggling with stage confidence. Jimmy's job was to help Marcus loosen up, have fun with his performance, and maybe crack a few jokes to ease the teenager's nerves before his crucial battle round. Marcus had chosen to sing My Hero by Foo Fighters, a song that held special meaning for him because it reminded him of his grandfather who had raised him after his parents died in a car accident. It was supposed to be a powerful but straightforward performance, emotional, but nothing that would trigger the kind of response that was about to unfold. Jimmy sat in the red coach chair that had been set up for him, chatting easily with Blake Shelton, Kelly Clarkson, John Legend, and Niall Horan about the performance they were about to witness. His energy was infectious as always, filling the studio with the kind of warmth and humor that had made him a household name for over 2 decades. "This kid, Marcus, is incredibly talented," Jimmy said to Blake as they waited for the performance to begin. "He just needs to realize that music is supposed to be fun. Sometimes we take ourselves too seriously. The best performances come when you're not afraid to be vulnerable, when you let people see who you really are." Blake nodded, appreciating Jimmy's insight. "That's great advice. These young performers put so much pressure on themselves to be perfect that they forget to just feel the music." As Marcus took the stage, Jimmy leaned forward with genuine interest, ready to offer encouragement and support. The young singer looked nervous but determined, clutching the microphone as he prepared to pour his heart into a song that meant everything to him. Marcus began to sing, his voice clear and powerful as he delivered the opening lines. "Ordinary guy, burning out in space, lost amongst the human race." Jimmy was smiling and nodding along, clearly impressed by Marcus's vocal ability and emotional connection to the song. But as the performance continued, something began to change in Jimmy's expression. His smile gradually faded, replaced by a look of growing discomfort that he seemed to be fighting to control. The lyrics continued, "My hero, ordinary, don't know what to say, too much to ask of someone." Suddenly, Jimmy's face went pale. His hands began to tremble slightly, and he gripped the arms of his chair as if trying to steady himself. Blake noticed the change immediately, glancing over with concern as he watched Jimmy's usual composure beginning to crumble. "There goes my hero, he's ordinary." As Marcus hit the chorus, Jimmy's emotional dam finally burst. Tears began streaming down his face, not the gentle tears of someone moved by a beautiful performance, but the raw, uncontrolled crying of someone whose deepest wound had been suddenly exposed. Jimmy stood up abruptly from his chair, his body shaking as sobs racked his frame. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking. I can't do this." Marcus, still singing, noticed the commotion and began to falter, concerned about what was happening with his celebrity coach. Blake immediately signaled for the music to stop, understanding that something profound and unexpected was occurring. "Jimmy," Blake called out softly, rising from his own chair. "What's wrong, buddy?" Jimmy was now openly weeping, his carefully constructed public persona completely shattered. "That was my dad's favorite song," he managed to say through his tears. "He used to play it all the time when I was growing up. He said the lyric about ordinary heroes was about all the dads out there just trying to do their best for their kids." The studio fell completely silent as everyone processed what they were witnessing. This was Jimmy Fallon, the man who had spent decades making people laugh, the host who never seemed to take anything too seriously, breaking down in front of millions of viewers. "Jimmy," Blake said gently, approaching him slowly, "talk to us. What happened with your dad?" Jimmy looked up at Blake with eyes full of pain that had clearly been buried for years. "He died of lung cancer when I was in my early 30s. I was so busy with my career, so focused on making it in show business, that I didn't spend enough time with him in his final months. I thought I had more time." Jimmy's voice broke again as he continued, "The last time I saw him, he was lying in that hospital bed, so weak he could barely speak. But when I walked into his room, he whispered the chorus of that song. 'There goes my hero, he's ordinary.' He was talking about me, saying I was his hero, but I felt like such a failure. I never got to tell him goodbye properly. I never got to say how much he meant to me." Blake felt his own throat tighten with emotion as he realized the depth of Jimmy's pain. Without hesitation, Blake walked over to Jimmy and pulled him into a strong, supportive embrace. "Jimmy, listen to me," Blake said, firmly but gently. "Your dad knew you loved him. Fathers know these things. And look at what you've become. You bring joy to millions of people every single night. You make families laugh together. You help people forget their troubles for a while. If that's not being a hero, I don't know what is." Jimmy clung to Blake, his sobs intensifying as years of suppressed grief poured out of him. "I miss him so much," Jimmy whispered. "Every time I achieve something, every milestone in my career, I wish I could call him and share it with him. I wish he could see that the little boy he believed in actually made something of himself." Kelly Clarkson, watching from her chair, was crying openly. "Jimmy, your father would be so proud of you. The joy you've brought to this world, the way you've used your platform to help others, that's his legacy living through you." John Legend added, his voice thick with emotion. "Sometimes we think we haven't said enough, done enough, shown enough love. But the people who truly love us, they know. They feel it in our actions, our choices, the way we live our lives." Marcus, still standing at the microphone, was watching the scene unfold with his own eyes full of tears. "Mr. Fallon," he said quietly, "I chose this song because my grandfather was my hero too. He died last year and I never got to thank him for everything he did for me. Maybe they're both watching us right now, proud of who we've become because of their love." Jimmy looked up at Marcus, seeing his own pain reflected in the young man's eyes. "What was your grandfather's name?" Jimmy asked, wiping his eyes. "Robert Chen," Marcus replied. "He came to America with nothing and worked 3 jobs to give our family a better life. He never got to see me perform, but I sing for him every time." Jimmy took a shaky breath, beginning to compose himself. "My dad's name was James Fallon Sr. He was a Vietnam veteran, worked as a machinist his whole life. He wasn't famous, wasn't wealthy, but he was the most decent man I ever knew. He taught me that making people laugh was a gift, but being kind was a responsibility." Blake kept his arm around Jimmy's shoulders. "Jimmy, would you like to finish listening to Marcus's song? I think your dad would want you to support this young man, just like he supported you." Jimmy nodded, understanding that this moment was about more than his own grief. "Marcus, I'm sorry for interrupting your performance. Would you mind starting over? I promise to be a better coach this time." Marcus smiled through his own tears. "Mr. Fallon, you just taught me the most important lesson about performing, that it's okay to feel everything, that the audience connects with your truth, not your perfection." As Marcus began to sing My Hero again, Jimmy listened with new ears, hearing not just the lyrics about ordinary heroes, but understanding the deeper message about love, loss, and the way we carry our loved ones with us, even after they're gone. When Marcus reached the chorus this time, Jimmy sang along softly, his voice harmonizing with the young performers as they both honored the ordinary heroes who had shaped their lives. The performance became something transcendent, not just a song, but a shared moment of grief, healing, and connection that reminded everyone in the studio that behind every public persona is a human being with real pain, real love, and real loss. When the song ended, The applause was unlike anything the voice had ever experienced. It wasn't just appreciation for a performance. It was recognition of a moment when entertainment became humanity, when celebrity became vulnerability, when laughter gave way to tears and somehow became more beautiful than any joke could ever be. Jimmy wiped his eyes and addressed the studio. I came here today thinking I was going to help a young singer have fun with his performance. Instead, Marcus and this song helped me remember something I'd been trying to forget, that grief isn't something to hide from, it's something to honor. My dad, Marcus's grandfather, all the ordinary heroes we've lost, they live on in the love they taught us and the way we share that love with others. Blake put his hand on Jimmy's shoulder. Jimmy, thank you for showing us that it's okay to be vulnerable, that even the people who make us laugh have moments when they need to cry. Your dad would be proud not just of your success, but of your courage to feel deeply and love completely. The segment became one of the most watched and most shared moments in television history, not because it was funny or polished, but because it was real. Jimmy's breakdown reminded millions of viewers that grief is universal, that everyone carries losses that shape them, and that sometimes the most healing thing we can do is allow ourselves to feel everything. Jimmy later said that the experience changed his approach to comedy. I realized that night that my job isn't just to make people laugh, it's to help them feel less alone in whatever they're going through. Sometimes that means laughing together, and sometimes that means crying together. Because sometimes the people who make us laugh the hardest are fighting the biggest battles. Sometimes the most beautiful moments happen when masks fall away and we see each other's true hearts. And sometimes a song about ordinary heroes can remind us that the greatest gift we can give each other is permission to be fully, completely, imperfectly human.